And welcome to the Technology Geek podcast. I am your host, Brandon Lepani, the Technology Geek. And this is episode 17 for us. You can find all of our show and all of our shows on our website at thetechnologygeek.org, as well as some other wonderful posts we do. We have a bunch of guest authors. If any of you out there like to write, we always accept guest posts on good tech topics. As well as you can find all of our old shows, as well as a lot of our wonderful sponsors. Again, that's thetechnologygeek.org. And a lot going on in the world of tech. It's just, there's so much going on right now. It's amazing how fast the industry moves. I just want, if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at LepaniTech. As well as I just want to give another shout out, by the way, to one of our sponsors, Audible. They're a wonderful sponsor of ours. And they've been sponsoring us since day one with our podcast. And I like Audible. It's a wonderful service. You can find all of their great books on Audible. I mean, they have everything. I haven't found a book on there I can't find. I just finished up World War Z. I listened to all of Kevin Mitnick's books. They're all up there for those of us that are interested in security. Right now, I'm actually looking. I've read a couple of books, listened to a couple of books by Jesse Ventura. He always has some good books, as well as some others. Right now there's a book up on Anonymous I'm thinking about looking up, and Julia Assange, the guy of WikiLeaks. So a lot of wonderful books up there. I like listening to audiobooks when I'm driving, when I'm in the car, when I'm at the gym, doing all types of stuff. But they're wonderful. I like to listen to them. And you can get a free month trial with audibletrial.com/techgeek. Again, that's audibletrial.com/techgeek, and they're a sponsor of ours, and we want to thank them. They sponsor our podcast every week, and we're very grateful to have them. I also want to do a shout-out as well to Dollar Shave Club. They're actually a new sponsor that we just got this past week. They're up on the website now. There's just a wonderful I actually am using them myself. Actually, I really like the service. For $6 a month, you get you get 4 blades a month. I use like a blade a week, and use them and. You throw them away. We've done their Gillette quality for $6 a month. They ship them right to your doorstep. It's wonderful. I joke around. A lot of people ask what it is. I tell them it's the Netflix of razor blades, but it really is a wonderful service. So I just want to promote them as well. They actually paid for a banner ad on our site, but I want to plug them as well during the podcast because we are very grateful to have more sponsors, and as well as all of you wonderful listeners and readers out there that have gone as far as to donate to us and to keep the site up, keep it free. We have a donation link there, and a lot of people have been very grateful. Gracious donating a couple dollars here or there, so I do appreciate all that. And it keeps the site up, keeps it free, and keeps us able to do all this wonderful stuff that we do here on the Technology Geek. And by the way, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we're not just this is our weekly podcast, but all week long we have a lot of guest authors, a lot of guest writers. We do stuff on YouTube and all that type of stuff. So check the site out every day. There's always brand new material, and we're very grateful to to have all you wonderful listeners and readers and all that type of stuff. We want to thank everybody for that. And again, you can follow me at LepaniTech. So much going on, like I said, in the world of tech. In this show, the Technology Geek, we talk, computers, the internet, home theater, gadgets, amateur radio too. It's just a wonderful. It's just wonderful. All the stuff that's intertwined with technology. Even amateur radio nowadays. There's so much going on with it in the realm of computers. It's really wonderful. How technology and everything has just gotten intertwined over the years. It's amazing. A couple of years ago, the cell phone market was just flip phones. Now, you have all these flashy iPhones and Androids, all that stuff. And it's amazing, too, what's old is new. Years ago they're trying to make cell phones smaller. 5 years ago they're trying to make cell phones smaller. Now they're trying to make them bigger again. So it's amazing how tech just flies like it does. Just a lot of... A couple things I want to talk about. I just want to point out a couple of dates here, since we do talk geek a lot around here. Like I said, the site's mostly aimed towards technology, but we do like to talk geek sometimes. May 11th. I'm sorry. Well, yesterday, the 3rd, Iron Man 3 was out. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm going to see if I can jump and see that this weekend. Apparently, they're in talks with Robert Downey Jr. to possibly do another movie. So we'll see how that goes. I would like to see them do another Avengers, if nothing else. Even if he doesn't do an Iron Man 4, I'd love to see another Avengers movie. it's such a great character, and I've always liked the character because he was always into computers, hardware, and all that type of stuff. He's kind of a geeky character, but that opened yesterday in theaters, and hopefully, everybody gets out there to see it. So, some other benchmark days coming up. May 11th, obviously, is U.S. Armed Forces Day, which is a big day for amateur radio. Anybody that's interested in amateur radio. May 11th, by the way, that's next week, we'll have Armed Forces Day. So I have information on that. I'll throw it up in the show notes. I'm not going to read through it all right now, but we'll throw it up in the show notes, and you can read the link later on if you'd like, if you're into that type of thing. And as everybody knows, I am a ham, a general class, and as well as I'm working on my extra class. It's something I'll be working on over the next couple of months. So, but like I said, Armed Forces Day is coming up, and I'll throw all that information up in the show notes. As well as, don't forget, June 21st and 22nd is Field Day, which is another big day in amateur radio. That's coming up. A lot of clubs really get into that pretty heavily. So, as well as May 17th, my birthday, is actually going to be the opening of Star Trek. The Star Trek 2 is coming up. So that's another one. J.J. Abrams obviously directing it. But that's going to be another one that's another big movie release this month for the geeks of the world, meaning us and people listening to this show probably. So as far as talking about tech goes, I wanted to bring up one of the things that I've kind of thought was interesting was Microsoft heavily pushing the new Microsoft System Center products. They're saying that System Center is aimed to prepare your cloud environment, preparing your environment for the cloud, and System Center has come a long way. I've used it since I used it for the 2003 as well as SMS, and now we're on 2012. I've used 2012, but now they also have 2012 Data Protection Manager, 2012 Operations Manager, Service Manager, Virtual Machine Manager. Microsoft's basically trying to build everything into System Center. Their antivirus was built in with 2012, so there's a lot of stuff going on in the System Center realm. Microsoft obviously heavily pushing it, trying to get everybody to put everything in the cloud, or even create their own internal cloud environment. So there's a lot going on with System Center there. Operations Manager obviously used for monitoring stuff like that. Virtual Machine Manager, obviously managing all the virtual stuff because Hyper-V and AppV and all that has gotten so big over the years. Virtualization is just going to get bigger. It's not going to get smaller. Data Protection Manager, obviously dealing with the data centers and dealing with SANs and dealing with storage area networks, all that type of stuff. So a lot going on with that. You can find that up on TechNet. TechNet.com, Microsoft's TechNet site. I have a subscription for $230. I think it's $200. It was $230. I think now it's went up to $259. For $259 a month, it's just a wonderful thing to get to use and play around with all Microsoft software. I like to load, Hyper-V or stuff like that on a Windows box and then throw a lot of different OSs on it so I can play around and mess with it. I messed around with 2012 Server a little bit. Recently, and basically, a lot of updates to 2012 Server. Obviously, Microsoft pushing everybody to go over to the virtualization. All the clustering now is all going to be virtualized instead of passing services back and forth. They're going to pass virtual machines back and forth now and stuff. As well as some other improvements, obviously, to terminal services and just a lot of stuff going on there right now with the release of 2012 Server. It's a lot, there's just an incredible amount of just stuff going on, it's with Microsoft Server. They really came a long way. The only thing I'm not too crazy about is the interface. They kind of threw that Windows 8 interface on, which I'm not very thrilled with, but that's what they did. Kind of makes it a little bit difficult to operate the server, but it's kind of just a getting used to point. So, but it's definitely, like I said, if you don't have a TechNet subscription, it's probably the best $259 you can spend. Plus, too, you get one free Microsoft phone call a year, which really could be helpful if you run into a snag with any of your servers or anything like that. So it definitely is worth it. If you don't have it, you should get it. For any of the IT people that are listening. I'm trying to see what else we have here going on. There's a lot, like I said, a lot going on in the world of tech. But the other thing, too, is the Chinese hackers steal info from top secret U.S. military data. That was up on the Hacker News the other day. That was basically what it is they basically, I've taken, quite a bit of information that I guess was stuff that was supposed to be kind of in development and stuff like that. They basically took place on, it was, they say it was, there was an attack that took place in 2009, and then there was another one that happened over a 251-day period, stealing over 20 gigs of data. A lot going on with that right now. Not saying what hacker group did it. They say the Chinese hackers. They're not really saying much about it. They are saying that security flaw and other vulnerabilities caused it. Obviously, they're being very, very, broad on the information. What we do know, though, is they're saying the only thing that they know is that they compromised 1,300 server passwords. That's the only thing they're really saying right now. But as more, and they were able to get away with like 1.3 million pages of documents. So they're not really saying what was. They're just saying is highly sensitive military information was stolen. I read a couple other articles, and they say that possibly it was some defense stuff that they were working on with robots and stuff like that. They're not being very clear on what it was. So I don't want to speculate, but like I said, they're still talking about it, and we'll know more as things transpire. Bitcoin. This is a big article. We had this on a site a couple days ago. I just want to talk about it. Bitcoin mining found in esports entertainment. Actually, what was happening with that is they were actually working on a way. ESEA Sports was actually working on a way to actually use Bitcoin mining while people are playing the games to actually make money, revenue. But they kind of scrapped the idea. Well, apparently they had a disgruntled employee that got a little upset with the company and decided to go ahead and just release it anyway. And I guess he made about $3,700 of Bitcoin money. This isn't the first Bitcoin money attack. There's malware out there that basically runs Bitcoin on your machine, stuff like that. I've actually seen it myself and dealt with it and removed it off people's computers. But, this is really, what they're doing is basically nothing new. It's just the first time that a major company has actually been looking at it as a way to generate revenue. So, as far as Bitcoins go, there are products out there right now, big server crunchers that do like 1 billion hashes a minute. So, using video cards so that is really cool, but the way people are really doing it is buying mining machines for like $5-6 grand and mining them that way. That's really want to do it because the hash has gotten so big over the years that it's getting harder and harder, to actually mine. So, like I said, it's people are writing malware out there and stuff like that to do it, but the way to do it is just to get a Bitcoin cruncher for $6 grand or so. Get a couple of your buddies together and buy one and mine Bitcoins that way. There's no way you're really going to make any money with it. Even high-end graphics cards nowadays just don't do the crunching that you need, because that's the whole key to Bitcoin mining is using your graphics processor because it's faster than your processor in your computer. But still a lot, still a lot going on there as far as it's just as fast as you crunch, with a high-end graphics card, just you can't compete with some of these mining machines. Just if you want to go ahead and Bitcoin mine, that's the way to do it. Get a couple of your buddies together, spend a couple G's, and get one of these Bitcoin mining servers, because that's the only way really that you're going to be able to crunch enough to make enough money. Most people I've seen people Bitcoin mine on a couple of machines, a couple of graphics cards, and barely get a couple of coins. So I've actually done extensive research into this. So a lot of other stuff going on too, as far as security goes. We'll get into some security here. The world's most secure messenger service offering 10,000 euro if you can crack their service. It's a London-based company. It has an iPhone messenger app that claims to be unhackable and is offering a reward to anybody who can pretty much intercept a message sent by it. It's called Red Act. Believes that the message sent via the app are completely secure and is providing a reward for anybody that can actually go ahead and do it. The application creates like a secure peer-to-peer encryption type thing for 2 iPhones, and they're pretty much saying they think they're uncrackable. So they're actually offering a reward if you can actually crack it. There are no username, phone numbers, or email addresses built into the app. Instead, the new users are automatically assigned a unique PIN similar to the BlackBerry Messenger, but the PIN is never stored anywhere. So they're saying it makes it pretty hard to exploit. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I don't believe anything's uncrackable. If something's man-made, somebody can unmake it. So we'll see what happens with that. But that is a popular story right now. Anybody that is familiar with the app and does know a backdoor, you can make yourself $10,000 if you know the exploit and you send it to them. Let's see what else do we have going on. We have obviously Google bans obviously Facebook and other self-updating Android apps. In the new Play Store version, 4.207 contains very minor tweaks that Google has changed. The rules to Google Play Store. Pretty much preventing people from updating their apps automatically. Shortly after Facebook Home launched, some users noticed, a new version of Facebook was available on their device, but wasn't able to update it. Wasn't able to update it through the Play Store. Instead, the update came directly through the app, bypassing the software altogether. So, under the dangerous product section of Google Play developer policies, Google states that an app downloaded from the Google Play Store may not modify, replace, or update its own APK binary code using any other method. So, essentially, this means that once an app is downloaded by the Android user, it can't contain home base or auto update on its own code. Instead, it has to officially go through the approved Google channel. So, this is actually, Google. This is actually something that Google. They say that that its Play Store is a trusted source of Android application downloads, and it is. But there have been a lot of problems with people downloading apps directly from sites and getting viruses on their Droid. So, if you want to stay safe, only download stuff through the App Store for the Play Store. Excuse me. Another thing that's kind of interesting: Google pays $31,339 bounty to a hacker who reported a critical vulnerability in Chrome. Google fixed a series of vulnerabilities in the Chrome OS, including 3 high-risk bugs that came out not too long ago. But they do offer bug bounties, and for people that find problems, and as part of the reward program, Google paid out like $31,336 to a researcher who found three of these vulnerabilities. So, it's good that Google offers. A lot of companies like Microsoft don't offer this, and people don't share it. So, that's kind of a problem. As what happens is, since they're not getting paid, they rather sell them on the black market, and that's not a good thing. So, these companies offering money definitely keeps them safer than people that don't offer money. Especially, some of these, like you had the, I believe I think it was Google paid, for 2 people, they paid like $100,000 to a team that, like last month, that pwned to own. So, rewards are usually between the 1,000 to 3,000 range, but when there's a pretty big flaw, they hike it. So, there are 4 vulnerabilities. I'm not going to go through them. But two of them were in Google Talk. One was in a plugin, and the other one was in one was in a memory buffer plugin, and the other one was a use after free bug. I'm not really sure what that is, but yeah, there was 4 bugs that recently were patched, and then this bug that they just found. So. And that's one of the things that's good about Google Chrome is since it's on that 6-week cycle, it's able to update more often than Microsoft Update or anything like that. Because Microsoft doesn't release new versions of Explorer; they just keep updating it. With this, you're getting a whole brand new version, which is potentially a little bit safer. So, obviously, some other news. Obviously, the Pirate Bay co-founder charged with hacking and stealing money. Pirate Bay co-founder, I cannot say his name. I apologize. Charged with hacking an IBM mainframe from a Swedish IT firm. Found that. I'm sorry. Let me make sure this is the. I'm going to make sure I read this right because I wrote it down. And Swedish IT firm provides tax services to Sweden government, and the IBM mainframe of the North Swedish Bank is being charged with several hacking related offenses, including fraud, attempted aggravated fraud, and attempting aggravated fraud. No, so there are 3 things, but apparently he was charged with hacking a Swedish database. So, he's going to be doing some time. Obviously, the Pirate Bay just moved recently to another country because they are, obviously they're trying to take them down because of the big sharing piece. So, they found a safe haven in another country not too long ago. I'd say probably about a month ago. So now they're going after the co-founders again. A lot of these guys are hackers, and a lot of these guys maybe don't have the best reputation. But I have to say, as far as not so much Pirate Bay, but as far as the BitTorrent piece of it, a lot of Linux distributions and stuff are distributed that way, and as a legitimate source of sending data, it actually is very fast. But unfortunately, sometimes people take it a little too far, and stuff like this happens. So. The other thing, too, I wanted to mention, Instagram users, there's a vulnerability in Instagram. There's not really much going on here, but apparently there's apparently a critical vulnerability in Instagram that apparently has got to be, they have to go ahead and update it and fix it. So they're not saying too much about it, but they're just saying that it allows you to hijack somebody's Instagram. So apparently there'll be some updates coming out for Instagram. So go ahead and make sure you update your Instagram. From what I'm reading, from what I have read, though, it's apparently something to do between the way Facebook and Instagram share their information. So hopefully we'll have more information on that as it transpires. I'm trying to see what else we have here in the news. A lot of security news. I'm not going to get into it, but there's a critical flaw in the Viber app. Which is a problem with smartphones. So if you have, if you're using the Viber app, be careful. There's a problem with that. There's a lot of just, lot of security news, over the last, last week or so. So I would just say be very, very careful. Security is just getting, it's just getting bigger and bigger. It's, there's just more and more going on with the, with the world of, security. Obviously, Facebook obviously had three major vulnerabilities in their messenger piece. That was obviously something that they're patched recently with the latest update, which I just got the other day. There's so much going on in the world of security. Sometimes it's so hard to keep up with it because every day there's something new. So. Let's see what else we have going on. I try to bullet some big top stories so we can go, talk about them a little bit. Obviously, I want to say the other day though, it's kind of interesting. I was at Staples the other day and they started selling a 3D printer. It was pretty pricey, but it is kind of cool though. 3D printers. I think that's something that's going to definitely take off over the next, year or so. But 5.5 inches tall, had like 16 different colors, had like 25 free design templates. So it's pretty neat. Like I said, it was in Staples, but I think that's something that eventually more and more people are going to get. One thing that still shocks me is how expensive vinyl cutters still are, to cut vinyl, for signs or putting decals on your car. I remember as a kid, we used to do that. We'd go over to my buddy. He had a vinyl cutter. He cut decals for our cars and stuff. But it's amazing how expensive that still is over the years. So they haven't came down at all. And the thing too with them is I don't know if anybody knows, but they're like proprietary. The software only runs on, say, a certain version of the OS, and if you don't buy the newer version, you can't run it on the new OS. So somebody that's only, say, cutting a couple bucks a month in vinyl, just for doing some stuff for his friends, when his machine goes out of date in 4 or 5 years, now he's stuck, with his old software and he has to update. And a lot of them too even protect their software, so you can't even run it in compatibility mode. It's really unbelievable. But again, it's a proprietary industry, so. Some other things, Lenovo to drop Omega brand to join EMC products. The Omega brand name will soon be officially laid to rest. Lenovo and EMC, which joined, its own store, which is jointly owned the storage company, will replace the Omega name as all NAS products with Lenovo and EMC entered into a joint venture last year, and Lenovo buying partial ownership of Omega. But because the company name is associated with cheap customer storage and zip drives, Lenovo is giving Omega the boot pretty much. So it's going to see, I remember the first zip drives. I remember those, man. That was, you had 100 meg and 250 meg, and if it was just an amazing architecture for the time, and they lasted quite a while. But obviously, they went out of business. But not out of business, but the zip drive just didn't make it. But that was definitely a blast from the past there. Kind of some classic computing stuff. You remember the super disk, that didn't hang around long either. Just a lot of things that unfortunately don't hang around that often. As far as the Linux news goes, Fedora 19 to stop masking passwords. Maintainers of the Anaconda installing Fedora have taken it upon themselves to show passwords in clear text on the screen as they are entered into the installer. Following on the new recent statement of the security expert, Anaconda maintainers have decided that it's not a security risk to show passwords in the latest version of the op release of Fedora 19. Members of the Fedora community have obviously been outraged on Twitter and on the forums and on the mailing list and stuff. So we'll see what happens. I would definitely suggest that they are probably going to retract that. I know myself, I'm on the Fedora Twitter stream, and it's just been crazy ever since they announced that a few days ago. So, it's just been unbelievable, and I can guarantee you that there's going to be some major backlash, and that's going to be stopped because it's a major security flaw. So, obviously, some other security news: Facebook puts account security in the hands of your friends. The next time you locked out of your Facebook account, one of your besties can loan you the key. Facebook released obviously a security feature called the Trusted Contacts. It's an optional way for people to recover their password by some of their using their closest friends. Thursday obviously was the rollout of it, but feature was previously going to be previously was named. They were naming it was called Trusted Friends, but I think they're going to be changed. I'm sorry, they believe they're going to be changing the name. What I'm reading, they believe they were changing the name. They haven't changed it yet, but they are going to. But with Trusted Contacts, you can pick like 3 to 5 friends that you can trust to help you get back in your account if you forget it, should you get locked out or anything like that. So it's kind of a neat thing that they're doing. We'll see how it goes with that. That could be a big security problem. I see a big security problem there, but apparently Facebook doesn't. Because what I'm thinking is the social engineering piece of this. You have a fight with a friend, you talk to his girlfriend or somebody like that, and she doesn't know you had the fight, or she's a better friend of yours, and she lets you into his Facebook account. I see a potential social engineering problem here, but again, that's just me being, I guess that's a lot of people say, paranoid. But again, I'm the same type of person that, I remember, working in places and people come in with jump drives that they found in the parking lot. They're like, I just want to see what's on it. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. A lot of people I know especially would say, oh, I want to work at home this week, so I'm going to, throw my files up on Dropbox or on, Box.net. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm the same one of those people that's always, paranoid about, social engineering and about, putting your data places where you can't control it. It's just, a lot of that. I'm also the same person too that, when somebody walks in behind me, I make sure that they have a badge before they walk in. If not, you're going to the main desk. I'm just one of those types of people. I guess maybe because I know more about security than the next person. But, again, it's just, that's just me. And I can see this being a big social engineering problem. Or even worse, or even not even just a social engineering, just say you know the password to, your friend's account. You log into his and then you unlock the other person's account. To me, it brings in too many security issues, social engineering, or just regular, password issues. But that's just me. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying, but I can just see where this could be a major issue for I can see this being a problem, especially with the younger generation, like kids, high school or stuff like that. Considering, by the way, if you look at the terms of service in Facebook, I brought this up to a lot of people, by the way, but you have a lot of young kids that have Facebook accounts, and it's normal practice. But actually, in the terms of service in Facebook, it says you have to be 18 or older. Something just to point out for everybody. By the way, Twitter, I just want to talk about social engineering. Twitter actually just got I believe they're getting a new CEO that apparently has a lot of IPO experience. So I guess they're going to go ahead and look to possibly, go ahead and go be a public company like LinkedIn or Facebook. So we'll see what happens with that. And one thing I want to say too, everybody knows about the Blockbuster and Redbox partnership. Apparently, Blockbuster rolled out its iOS app. Former movie giant rental box place, for tapes. It was acquired by Dish in 2011, but now it brings the on-demand service to the iOS. So, interesting piece there. lot going on in the streaming industry right now. You have a whole podcast just on that. Dish Network on Thursday launched, Blockbuster On Demand for the iOS device, with pre-purchase movie rentals, from the online library. The app, has already been available since January for the desktop computers, but Samsung smart TVs and Android devices, but just recently they just released for the iOS. Yeah, that's kind of a neat thing I've noticed too lately is a lot of people are releasing it for the Droid before they release it for the iOS. I'm not really sure why that is, but that's been a new trend over the last couple of months. I'm not really sure why. If anybody knows, send me a tweet. Like I said, at LaPandyTech, send me a tweet and let me know why. I really don't know why. I've looked into it, but I can't find out the answer. But a lot of the service, you can rentals, you can purchase before watching. Prices go from $2.99 to $6.99 for new releases. So users who want to rent movies through the service, will need to sign up for a free account on the app, by visiting the Blockbuster On Demand website. So as everybody knows, Blockbuster did file for bankruptcy in 2010 and was bought by Dish Network. So Dish Network, is one of those, they really came a long way too. They have all these different packages and all type of stuff trying to give you channels that you want to watch, not channels you don't want to watch, which is something different than cable or DirecTV does. So it's kind of, they've really come a long way of trying to give you stuff that you're going to watch rather than give you stuff you're not going to watch. So, on demand, the new on demand app, obviously they're competing with Netflix, and Redbox, in order to stay, out of claim in the industry. So, there's a lot of streaming services out there right now. I know myself, I just got Netflix Netflix, I apologize. Just got HBO Go the other day. I had to get HBO just to get HBO Go. I have a feeling HBO is going to break HBO Go off. But we'll see how that works. We've been hearing about that for years. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did it, as well as Amazon Prime. I mean, there's so many different streaming services out there right now. It's unbelievable. And the same thing goes not just with the movie industry, but just with the music industry as well. I mean, especially music industry, I have a little bit of a background on that, and there are razor thin margins on that market. And believe it or not, actually one of the very few companies that's making money is actually Sirius XM. They're making money with streaming and all type of stuff. But again, they have a lot of original content too. But they're operating on raised. Most of those, most like Rhapsody, Spotify, Pandora. Well, Spotify we don't know because they don't release their privately owned company. They don't release their information. But Pandora, Rhapsody, they all operate on razor thin margins. So we'll see what happens with that. So I know that I'm sure the streaming service does the same thing. As far as operating on thin margins. I know companies, especially we're going to talk about Netflix here shortly, but I know companies like them, they've gone right to the content providers rather than trying to go directly and buy the rights for movies just to save some money. So. A couple of things I want to get into too, talking about, we're going to go back to the whole streaming piece, but one thing I wanted to say too is kind of neat. I've been using Join.me for a while to remotely, do stuff with customers and stuff like that. And one of the things, Google actually adds remote desktop hangouts to Google Plus, which is pretty cool because it allows you now to help your friend, with a situation while you're actually looking at them. Some people are more tech savvy than their friends, obviously, and family. But with Google Plus now, it allows you. You have to open up a Google Plus Hangout, and then you'll be able to, if they click the remote desktop button, so it's powered by the same technology as the Chrome remote desktop feature, which lets you use video and chat while troubleshooting. Lets you see the screen, control the screen and stuff. So it's pretty cool. And I think it's really cool to have that. I think having it on Google Plus is going to be really cool because a lot of people have Gmail accounts. I think it'll be a lot easier. I might even start using that myself. When it comes to remote troubleshooting people's machine. Which, by the way, on the website we do offer. If you go on our site under services, we do offer. Tech support services to people at a cost. So if you ever need remote tech support services, we do offer that at a fee. It's one of the ways we help keep the website up and running. But I might even start using Google Plus for that because it just makes things easier because you can stream video and help the person at the same time, which makes it relatively a little more personal, but a little bit easier as well. Because with Join.me, obviously you'd have to call the person and talk to them over the phone or chat with them. With Google Plus, you can actually have a streaming session going on while you're also talking to the people. So it's a pretty neat thing. I might actually start using that. I kind of like it. Barnes & Nobles, by the way, adds Google Play Store to its tablets. The Nook, obviously, that's something that happened recently. It's going to be added to the Nook HD and the Nook HD Plus. That's something new. Barnes & Noble's doing what they can to hang on. Microsoft, obviously, looking, being a big investor into them, but I just don't see that happening. We'll see what happens. I just really don't see that helping them too much. I think Barnes & Noble's is on a slow death. If it wasn't for Microsoft, I think they'd be gone by now. And speaking of book providers, by the way, Amazon Kindle is apparently supposed to go to 10-inch. We'll see what happens with that. There's some of the things I wanted to talk about as well is because we were talking about Netflix, obviously. Netflix, obviously, this week loses 2,000 titles, but Netflix doesn't really seem too worried about it. They've got plenty more titles, and they've got some other deals that they have lined up. And plus, too, they're pretty focused on their original content provider right now. But like I said, the streaming, the streaming movie industry, they operate on razor thin margins, just like the music industry. Like I said, I know more about the music industry than I do the video industry, but I do know that they operate on paper thin margins in the music industry. And from what I've seen, they do operate on pretty thin margins on the video streaming industry. And there's a lot of streaming, just both music and video both have so many streaming services available now that it's a tight industry, and you almost have to have a couple different ones nowadays just to get all the titles you want to watch. So, but that was, like I said, I definitely think that something's going to happen with that, and we're going to slowly dwindle down to just a few because there's so many of them out there right now. Obviously, Google's in that business now too. They're competing with iTunes, with the movie industry now, where they sell movies and stuff. Obviously, WWE is going to be teaming up with them. They're teaming. WWE right now is going to apparently be working with YouTube to have their first, to create their first YouTube channel. And as well as, too, they're also going to be, WWE's also partnering with Yahoo now as well. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on in the streaming media area, and I think you're going to see it slowly be like, it's going to dwindle down to just a few. I think there's just too much of it right now. I think it's a good thing, but I think it's going to be like the .com industry. There's going to be so much of it that something's going to have to bust. So, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's just a prediction. But we will see what happens, over time. But I know Netflix they were looking pretty bad a couple years ago through the whole Quickster thing, and now their stock is back up and everything's doing great. Their stock is really sturdy now, as well as Google stock is doing pretty strongly as well now too. Apple's starting to slip a little bit, but Apple hasn't really had too many great innovations. Obviously, there's rumor about the Apple 60-inch Apple TV, but again, we don't know yet because Apple doesn't release anything ahead of time. So we'll see what happens with that. We don't, people are saying in September could be the next iPhone, but we don't know. That's the other problem with Apple, I think, is that a lot of people don't know. As far as revenue streams, talking about companies and revenue streams, though, Foursquare apparently to start selling your data. There was an article the other day up that Foursquare, who has been selling advertisements and stuff like that, and partnered with 25 or 30 big companies like American Express and McDonald's and stuff, is apparently looking possibly to, change those terms of service to, possibly, sell your data. Like, we'll see what happens with that. Foursquare obviously, has quite a bit of, it's quite a good user base, but, they have over 30 million users, but, they're competing with Facebook Places, and I don't know if they're really, I don't know. I don't really know, their revenue stream, I don't know. I think it's really, really a tough. I think the buzz of it really died out. So we'll see what happens with that. It's tough for them. They're trying to really grow revenue because it is really such a niche market. Another thing too, by the way, I just want to say when they're talking about Netflix, and I wanted to bring this up. Netflix continues its original programming on site. By the way, with a new series, it's going to be out on July 11th, called Orange is the New Black. And they haven't really talked too much about what it's going to be. They released one picture of it. There are no trailers yet for it, but when there is, we'll go ahead and we'll play it for you on the podcast. But that's a new show, by the way. It's coming out. and obviously that will join obviously House of Cards, and as well as Hemlock Grove. And Hemlock Grove has seriously paid off for Netflix, as well as House of Cards has. Both of them really have paid off, and I believe this series is another series that'll pay off for them. One thing about Netflix is they've been very, very picky about their original content. In my opinion, I think my personal opinion, I've said this many times before, I think really the biggest competitor for Netflix is HBO. I don't think it's Amazon Prime. I think it's HBO because there's so much original content that's being brought to Netflix now. I don't think places like Amazon Prime or anything that really compete with them. Now, Amazon Prime is coming out with their own original content, but that's yet to be seen. I'm not saying it will be good or won't be, but it's yet to be seen what it's going to do. Speaking of Google, by the way, we'll go back to them, talk about their stock before. Google Fiber, obviously, it sparks yet another gigabit internet service. Google Fiber, obviously, competing now with Time Warner and AT&T. They plan to move now into Provo, Utah, and they plan to move into some other areas. Obviously, AT&T and Time Warner not happy about it, as well as Verizon not happy about it. But nothing you can really do about it. It is what it is. So Google's starting to break into that market, and good for Google though. I think it's about time there's some competition. In the fiber market. Trying to see if we have anything else here on our list of stuff. One thing I just want to point out too, guys, is I do have Sirius XM, and they do have a big channel lineup change coming on the 9th, which will be, I believe it's going to be in another week from now. No, it's going to be. I believe is it on the 9th, I believe. Let me check my dates here to make sure I give you the proper information. Yeah, on the 9th. So it should be. Yeah, I believe it's going to be. I believe it's going to be the 9th or the 10th. I believe it's going to be, but it's going to be. It's going to be. They're moving a lot of channels around, so just so everybody knows, there's going to be some changes for your. Some of your channels are going to change again. And I don't know why they keep doing that. It's kind of really annoying. They're moving Open Anthony to channel 103. They're moving Entertainment Weekly to channel 105. They're moving the America Talk channel from 166 to 222. It's all over the place. I think they're slowly trying to make it so that like Howard 100 is always on Sirius and XM, the same channel. They're trying to do that so that Sirius and XM channels are on the same channel on both sides. So that obviously is coming up. Some other things too I wanted to point out as well is the Google Now for your iPhone. I've had it on my Galaxy S3 for a while, but now apparently Google Now for the iPhone is available, and I think this is a brilliant marketing strategy for Google. I mean, I think this was genius personally, because if you know everything after the 4S obviously has Siri. Anything older than the 4S doesn't. So this is a way for Google to kind of, one, get people's data off the iPhone. Two, it allows them to kind of coax the people over to the Droid market when it's time for them to upgrade their phone. So I think it's definitely an amazing marketing strategy by Google to try to get the older users, the older iPhone users, by giving them voice capabilities which Siri doesn't give them. So I think it's an amazing thing that they're doing, and I think it's a brilliant marketing strategy. And I'm just like I just want to salute them, because that was really a ingenious marketing move by them. As well as talking about Google, by the way, YouTube now has over 6 billion hours of videos a month. That's amazing. That's a lot of videos. And since we were talking about Apple, by the way, Apple, says they have over 50 billion apps on the App Store. So, that's definitely, some interesting stuff, coming out of the world of tech this week. I also want to say too, for those of you that don't know, there is actually the new, there's actually a trailer for the new Wolverine movie. And also too, they're also working on another X-Men movie, which is going to have quite an extensive cast. And they were just showing pictures the other day of Halle Berry, who was pregnant, and apparently they had to modify her costume. And talking about Hugh Jackman, how he's doing another Wolverine, then he's doing the X-Men on top of it, and there's just so much buzz for that right now. It's pretty cool. A lot going on. Matt Damon's got a new movie coming out that looks pretty good as well about after America gets too polluted, they move to the moon. It's kind of a neat thing. As well as the new season of Falling Skies starts back up. So those of you like myself who are big Falling Skies fan, that's starting back up as well. And obviously, too, if you're a Netflix subscriber, which I know most people that listen to the show are, Hemlock Grove, obviously, that's something we want to start chipping away. And I've watched about 3 episodes so far. I'm going to try to get through a couple more this weekend, maybe, if I have time. But that's another wonderful show, and it's definitely worth the watch. So if you like Hemlock Grove, to me, it seems a little bit Twilight meets vampire meets, werewolf type of thing. It's kind of a little Twilight-ish, but by the way, I've not seen Twilight. I just want to clear that up. But it's a pretty good show. But like I said, a lot of people have said it's kind of Twilight-ish. But then you have Famke Janssen, which is also she was in the X-Men and as well as in Taken and a lot of other wonderful movies. So she's a wonderful actress and she's great to have in the show. But so if you have time, bang out some Hemlock Grove. It's definitely. Most episodes are about 45 minutes or so it's pretty good. It's about as long as listening to this podcast. So, by the way, folks, I just want to say we're gonna switch gears now in a minute, and we're gonna take some of the questions you guys always send in. A lot of you send in just tons of questions of that, and I try to answer as many of them as I can. And some of the questions, obviously, I can't answer, and people end up, needing us to help them with support and stuff. But I answer as many as I can. But this week, a lot of good questions coming in. And again, you can send us all of our questions at Lapani Tech, and I try to answer them right on Twitter so that people can find, the answers to their questions on social media, as well as I post them up on the site after the podcast every week, so that people can have a nice repository of information where they can answer their tech questions. And we have a couple of good ones. The first one I have is, how can I get my business undeleted from Google? I think that's going to have to be something that you're probably going to have to contact Google support. I had an issue like this with my computer business about maybe 5-6 years ago. Where I had the same situation where I actually had to go ahead and the only way to get it to work was I actually had to call support and they had to undelete it. There's no really easy way to do that. Or the only thing I found that it tries, if you change the address and change it back, they'll send you another verification card. That works. There's quite a few things, but I think you're going to have to end up just calling support for that. And I don't think there's any way you're going to get around that. You might have to get the email support. It's very hard to get a hold of anybody at Google for something like that. Is there a PC cleaner that can get rid of my viruses? We've talked about this, Spybot, Malwarebytes, Rootkit Buster, Microsoft Security Essentials, AVG. There's tons of them out there. Just pick a couple of them and just start running them. That's all you can do. A couple of questions I have. These are 2 questions, but they're going to be. I'm going to answer both of them with one answer. Somebody asked, "How can I access my DVR remotely?" And then another person asked, "How can I get my what can I get besides DVR?" And the answer to both of those is Slingbox. It's a wonderful service, and I strongly recommend Slingbox. Now, the only thing bad about the Slingbox is if you have a cable provider that has a slow upstream. Because remember, you may have like a 5G or a 10G, but that's downstream. Upstream, if it's less than a meg, it's not going to be that good. And it's going to be slow to buffer and all type of stuff. You have to check your upstream. That's the only bad part about a Slingbox, is you have to worry about the upstream. Now, if you're just looking at it in your internal network, like in your house, you're fine. But remotely watching it on your phone while you're at the doctor's office or something like that, it's just going to be god-awful slow. So, that's the only bad about Slingbox. But that's the only other thing I could think of that you could remotely, you could remotely watch your videos, as well as if you didn't want to spend the money monthly on a DVR, you just want to have one lay out money once, you can just buy a Slingbox for $127. But that's all you could do. The next one I have is, and it's kind of neat. I really wanted to talk about this, but we didn't get a chance to. My favorite soap now is on Hulu. How can I watch it on my TV, not on my computer? That's something I want to talk about. Recently, I believe it was April 29th. I believe it was 2 soap operas. I think it was All My Children, and I believe One Life to Live, I think, was the other one. I guess the Hulu bought the rights to put those 2 soap operas up up on the website. So I think that's really kind of neat how the industry is going with television, where everything's going to be online now. And Hulu, obviously, another competitor. I didn't talk about them before, but I think it's neat how they're doing soap operas. So that's kind of a neat thing. Again, that's Hulu doing original content to try to draw people in, and doing the same thing, kind of Netflix and a lot of other places doing, except they're doing it on a show. I mean, because soap operas are every day, whereas obviously certain shows are only 13, 21 episodes. But again, that's Hulu coming out with original content now, and I think it's good for them that they're getting into that industry. So, but yeah, the only way you're going to be able to watch Hulu on your TV is just you're going to have to get a Roku and just buy the subscription. That's really the only way to do it. There's a couple play-ons, another piece of software if you can use on your smart TV, that's an option. Some TVs come with Hulu built in, but again, you have to buy their service. That's the only thing. You have to buy the Hulu service. I think it's $7 a month. If that's really what you want, that's really what you like, more power to you. But I mean, there's a lot of content on Hulu because they do aggregate, like a lot of shows, like ABC shows, Cartoon Network, all that type of stuff they aggregate. So, I mean, it is a good service. They aggregate shows of the History Channel and stuff. I mean, it is a good television service. So, if you're interested, that's really the only way you're going to be able to do it. Next question I have is, do I need a SIM card for my Verizon phone? No, you don't. There's no SIM card on a Verizon phone. The only way you can activate a Verizon phone is to call Verizon and have them activate it. That's it. There is no SIM card. It's not like AT&T or any of the others. And I know that right off the top of my head because I have a Verizon phone. Why does my computer shut down while I'm playing games? Well, you might have a thermal issue there, or you might even have a driver issue. Maybe if you're using an off-board video card, go ahead and download. There's tools out there that you can monitor your heat. First thing I would do is recommend doing all your Windows updates, downloading your updated driver card, for your video card, and then download a tool and watch the heat. Watch your make sure your machine doesn't overheat while you're playing, because there's only two things it could be: either a video card problem with the driver, or a thermal issue. So, how can I get my iTunes music on my Android? The only way that I know how to do it, because I've done it for some friends of mine, is either Winamp for Android does it. It'll import your whole iTunes library in, and you can sync it to your phone. Or your other option is to use Double Twist. Those are the only two options you have. The only other option is you can use Google Music, and you can upload all your music to Google Music, and you can put Google Music on your Android and do it that way. There's quite a few options for Android, but those are the three major ones. Google Music, the only problem with that is you're going to need an internet connection to listen to your music on your Droid. As far as as far as Winamp and Double Twist, those can actually sync your MP3s right over. So, and the last question, which is the one I saved for the last because it's a service that I love, Spotify. Somebody said, how can I offline Spotify? You have to actually have their $9 a month service, which allows you to offline on your phone. If you want to just offline on your computer, you can have just the regular pay service for $4 a month, and there's just a button you click. You click offline, and it'll sync. It'll download all the tunes right to your computer, or right to your phone. It's a wonderful service. I love the offline service. I use it all the time. I think that's going to be pretty much it for our questions. Again, you can follow our website. Every day we have brand new posts from authors and all type of stuff at obviously our website, thetechnologygeek.org. You can follow our weekly radio show as well up there. Follow me at Twitter at LapandyTech. I love new followers. Feel free to follow me anytime. I want to thank everybody for listening, and we will hopefully see you next week as we continue, as we roll on to episode 18. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening, and hopefully we will be speaking to you next week. Thank you.